Hello everyone, and welcome to another official Doom Builder 2 tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to cover the visual mode. So I'm going to start off by drawing some rooms that we can modify in visual mode. So I'll make a 640 by 640 room right here. So 640 by 640. Okay, so we have that room. Now I'm going to draw a light in the middle, similar to the way we had last lesson. 128 by 128. Now what I'm going to do is actually draw a hallway that leads to another sector that's identical to this one. So I'm going to draw a, let's see, we'll do a 640 again by a 128. So drawing that right in the middle of this wall here. And now we'll go ahead and draw the other side. So 640 by 640. Okay. So now we have these two rooms connected by a hallway here. And instead of having all this flat here, what I'm going to do is actually build a staircase right here. So you basically go up the staircase, and all this is on a higher floor. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in using my mouse wheel, and I will draw 32 by 128, and this is basically serves as a stair step. So I'm going to do that for all of them. Okay, so we have our sectors set up to build our stairs. Okay, so with that done, I'm going to go over to this other room here. So we'll actually make this room look like our other room from the last lesson. So I'll do that real quick by drawing a 128 by 128. Now we're not setting any of the properties right now, because we're going to do that in visual mode. So it was 64. And then connect to the light. We're going to do this all the way around just as we did. We're not going to do it on the hallway side because that side's going to be our entryway and we're not going to have a light there. But we'll go ahead and do the rest of these sides here. Okay, 64, connect to the light. And okay, so we have our three lights here and our main big light. So let me zoom out with the mouse wheel. Alright, so now we got this level set up here, and I want to go ahead and go into visual mode and set up the properties to where I want them. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and add a visual mode start. Now this isn't required, but it's probably a good idea because it'll tell you exactly where you're going to start at. So what I'll do is hover over in this sector and I'll push Control W. And you'll see a white thing appears there. So if I go into things mode, you'll notice that if I right click it, it actually is in the things menu as well. It's called visual mode camera, and we don't want it in any of the settings or else it'll appear as a missing item in game. So we'll click OK. Okay, so now we're going to go into visual mode. So we'll go to mode and visual mode, or you can push W on your keyboard. So now I'm in visual mode, and you can see I started where the visual mode start was. So I'm going to use ESDF to move around. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually raise the ceiling of this first room. So I'll select every piece of it by clicking on it. And I will use the mouse wheel to push it up. And you can see in the info panel down there, I'll move it up to 192. And I'll push C to clear my selection. So after that's done, I'm going to come into this hallway and I'm going to select it and the next room, because I actually want to move these rooms up because I plan on having stairs here. So I'm going to select each piece. So I selected the ceiling and the floor of this hallway. I'm going to select all of the ceiling and floor areas of this room now. Okay. And now I'm actually going to use the mouse wheel and move them up. So you can see as I raise that, the ceiling's actually moving as well as the floor. And you can see it's getting higher just by looking over there. So I'll move it up to 64. And notice we kept the 128 height difference here. And it didn't actually shrink at all because I had both the ceiling and the floor selected. And this can be really handy when resizing rooms in visual mode. So now I'll push C to clear my selection. So now that I got these rooms to where I want them, I'm going to just go ahead and go by a room basis now. So I'll move in here, and the first thing I'm going to do is start working on this middle platform. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually raise it up 8 units, and I'll do that by pushing the mouse wheel up. And I'm going to bring the ceiling down as well, so I'll use the mouse wheel down for that. I'll bring it down about 4, which is 32 units. So what I'm going to do now is actually click on this floor texture and right click, and you'll see that I get a window pop up that was similar to the one we had before in the previous lesson. So I'll come up here to the floor, and I will go to base, and I'm going to select flat 22. I'll push OK. And I'll actually raise the brightness of the sector because I'm going to put lights on top anyway. So I'll up that to 255. And with that, I'm going to actually change the ceiling texture as well, so it's a light. So with that, I'll come down here to lights, and I'll go with sill 1_2, and I'll push OK, and OK. So you see those two textures replace. Now I'm going to need to actually put a texture on the bottom of this because you can see it's actually still missing its texture. So what I'll do is actually select this first one by right clicking it, and I'll go to side defs, and I'll look at lower because that's the texture I want to replace, and I will actually go to base and scroll down, and I'm looking for a silver texture to match that top here. So here we go, silver 1. So I'll push OK. I'll push OK again, and you see that it added it. Now I could do that for every single line on this, or every single wall, but I would rather just go ahead and copy and paste it. So what I'll do is actually hover over this texture and push Control C, and then I'll come over here and I'll push the middle mouse wheel in, and it'll actually paste that texture for me. So I'll paste that all the way around, and with that done, I'm going to work on the top now because it's still missing its wall textures. So if I right click this one, and I'll go to side defs, and I'm going to make it a metal to match that top piece. So I'll look down here in the metal set and click metal, and I'll push OK, and OK, that's fine. So there's our metal texture, and instead of actually pasting this all around, I'm actually going to do a shortcut here. So what I'm going to do is actually copy this texture with Control C, come over on this side, and I'm actually going to push Shift and middle mouse click. Then you'll see that it actually pastes them in all of the empty spots on this top light, which is a pretty handy feature if you have a lot of textures you have to replace. Okay, so now I'm done with that platform. I'm going to start building my stairs here. So I'll start by raising the first one by 16 units, and then I'll go to the second one and match the first one, and then I'll raise it 16 more. And this is an easy way to make sure your stairs are even. So I'll just keep building that up. So now that I have that done, I'm actually going to apply a texture to these top parts. So I'll select each of them and right click, and we'll go to floor, and I'm looking for steps, so I'll push steps here, and I will do step 1, and I'll push OK. I'll push OK, and you'll see that it adds it to it. push C to clear my selection here. And now I'm going to actually put a silver texture on there. So to do that, instead of looking it up again, I'll just go ahead and copy this one from here. So I'll push Control C, and I'll use that Shift middle mouse click again, so it adds it to everything. And the last thing I could do here is really just align this texture to make it look a little better. So to do that, I'll go to these first three and push L. And when I do that, you see it actually makes the texture start from the lower side of it. So it makes it look a little more aligned. And I'll go to the front and do that as well. And all the way around. And I can also push A, and that'll automatically align them horizontally. So now that that is done, I'll go ahead and move down this hallway and move into this room right here. And for those of you that tuned in last lesson, you already know what this room is going to look like. For those of you just tuning in, it's actually just going to be 3 lights, one here, and one here. And we have a ceiling light as well, and we're going to brighten all these sectors so it looks like they're shining. So I'll actually select these 3 walls together, since I know the same light is going on them. And I'll right click and go to side defs, and I already have a texture there, but I want to replace it, so I'll click it, and I'm going to look for lights. So here's the light set here, and I'll go to light 3, and I'll push OK, and I'll push OK again. So there's those lights, and I'll push C to clear my selection here. And I'm going to select the ceiling light now, which is actually going to be a matching one from over here. So I might as well just copy this one. Use Control C, come over here and use the middle mouse and paste it in. And I'll actually lower that twice. And I will use the metal texture again. So I'll copy that and Shift and middle mouse. Paste that around. So that's set up, and now I just want to brighten these sectors up. So I'll select each one of them. And instead of going into a menu to brighten them, I'll just hold Control and use middle mouse up, and it will actually brighten the sectors for me. So if I push C, you can see that now. All these sectors are brightened and ready to go. So you can see how very quickly we can set up our textures and set up our lighting and pretty much modify our level very quickly in visual mode. So with that, I'll go ahead and head back into the editor. Okay, so you can see the textures are actually how we set them in visual mode. And the last thing I want to do is actually add a couple things in here. So I'm going to add a player start here at our tech lights. So come into player start 1. And I'll face them towards the stairs. Push OK. And I'll add a shotgun in this middle hallway here. Shotgun. And I will add a demon right here so he can't quite see you until you enter the room, at which point he'll come after you. So we'll push OK. So we have that set up. And with that set up, we'll go ahead and go back into visual mode just for a second here. And now that we're back in visual mode, you can actually see the things that we placed within our level. And since I can see them, I actually have another option that I can modify them as well while in visual mode. So I'll just right click the shotgun, for instance, and you'll see that I get the option up, and I can change that to a chainsaw if I wanted to. And I'll push OK, and you'll notice that it changes it. So that's yet another option if you needed to edit a thing while in visual mode and you're modifying your level. So I'll go ahead and leave visual mode again. And with that, we'll go ahead and come up here and test our level. Okay, so now you see that everything is where we set it. Come up here, pick up the chainsaw, and Demon sees us coming around the corner and tries to kill us, and there we go. So we have our room set up here, just as we've seen it visual mode. So with that, we'll go ahead and go back to the editor. So that should wrap up this lesson on how to visually modify your levels. Be sure to tune in for the next lesson, which is on effects and actions, which basically covers sector effects and action specials. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next lesson.